Hello, everyone. We are live with Zania Sala, and I am Natalie Marc-Charles, and I'm so excited to be live with you guys today because recently I thought about doing a series with working mothers who are doing amazing jobs in their careers while aligning their home life with their work life. And my first guest today is my friend and colleague, Zania Sala. And she has an amazing bio. So I'm going to read it out to you because I don't want to miss anything from her career. So Zania is a bilingual actor and singer, and she started her part-time business in 2017. And by 2019, she had landed the gig of a lifetime as the first female promos voice for the Univision channel Unimas. She is a SOVAS-nominated voiceover talent and has been in your ears through TV, radio, digital ad campaigns, plus other media sources all over the US and internationally. Some of her clients include Latin Grammy Awards, Chase Bank, Unilever, P&G, McDonald's, Amtrak, MTV and Nickelodeon, of course, and many more. She currently lives in Miami, Florida with her husband and two sons ages 6 and 4. Zania, welcome to our Working Mom series. Thank you so much for being with me today because I think that, you and I we've known each other for years and we recently reconnected. We knew each other when we worked at Viacom International Media Networks, which is now called Paramount, right? And we were working in the Miami Beach office together. And I just remember, and I think this was pre-kids for you, I had already had one child. And even though we were at different stages in terms of career, we really bonded. And so when I thought about doing this series for working moms and following you on Instagram, which I find your Instagram to be hilarious most of the time, right? You have some serious content, but half the time it's very scary. It's very scary, very funny. I just thought you would be the perfect first guest to have on today because your career as a voice actor and singer is not typical, right? It's not doctor, it's not engineering, And so part of what I want to do with this series is introduce working moms to different types of careers that they may not have thought of before, but also at the same time, give them a way to have a safe space where they can hear how other working moms are doing it, where we're succeeding and where we're failing. None of us have it down to a formula, right? I mean, you and I were just talking prior to this about how your morning went, right? And so there's no science to it. It's all about understanding what you want and your values and your priorities, and then how to align all those things. So tell me, I guess we'll get started with your career. So how did you get started as a voiceover actor and singer?
Okay, I think this is one of the classic stories where I ended up where I didn't know I was going to end up. Like I didn't know this was going to be my career, because it really is a career now. It's not just a job. So my entire life I've been singing. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and the singing was what led me to voiceovers. I ended up in a television studio back in 2004. And I was just hosting on TV. And I got to that because I ended up being in a singing reality show in Puerto Rico. And that opened the doors. That year that I was in that reality show, it was 2004. It was a very pivotal year. And
2004, you were in a reality show?
Yeah.
I had no idea. And I knew you after this.
Yes.
This is important information that you didn't share.
I did. Oh my gosh. Well, yes, I was in her like American Idol, but in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And I made it into the show. I didn't win, but it was great because it just opened the doors to so many things. So Univision back then, because it was being transmitted through Univision, hired me to host on TV, to be the host of a show, 2 shows. And part of those 2 shows was I had to do promos for the show. So I went into the studio, recorded my voice, and I was like, I did it in like 15 minutes, and they were like, okay. And I'm like, oh, wait, this is separate from my. They say, yeah, you'll get your paycheck in the mail or whatever. Okay. When I
Okay.
got that paycheck and I saw it, and I was like, what? I was just there for 15 minutes.
This looks
It,
fantastic.
I went to accounting. I'm like, you got this wrong. Like, there's an additional zero there that I was there for 15 minutes. And they're like, no, girl, that's what broadcast pays.
Love it. Love it.
So I ran and I cashed the check. My 20-year-old
Straight to
self.
the bank.
Yeah. And then fast forward to many years later, my singing career didn't pan out, but that's a completely different story. There was a lot of soul searching and a lot of diving deep into my core and my soul to figure that out. And I was simultaneously working at Viacom.
Yes.
And when I turned 30 more or less, I realized I can't be living this life anymore because I just didn't like my job. And I was super unhappy. And so I left that. I worked somewhere else, and then I got pregnant with my first son. And at that point, I still hadn't found the job that I wanted. So I told my husband, I'm like, look, I'm having a really hard time. Even, when kids come into the picture, things change. So I was like, this is no longer about me. But now that I'm a mom, I feel like I need to go in another direction. I need something for myself. So I need to leave this job and I need to focus on what I need to do. And my husband was like, okay, let's do it. So I spent about a year as a stay-at-home mom, and I hated it. I could not handle it. I couldn't. And it blows my mind how difficult it is and how lost you can get in it and how isolating it is.
And lonely a lot of the times, right?
Yeah, super lonely. And that's why I feel like so many moms go to Instagram, go to the social media, because you get immediate connection with other parents because we feel so isolated. And of course we have the people in our lives, but you, like me, we live in a place where I don't have a lot of family here.
Me neither.
And the family that I do have, they work.
Yeah.
They have their lives, they work, they have their own children. Like
so that support system that we have here is missing, right?
Exactly.
And I love that you said that I give all the credit to stay-at-home moms, because when we initially, maybe my audience doesn't know this, but I moved back from Haiti after living in Haiti for about 7.5 years. We moved back to Florida, and for the first 2 months that we moved back, I thought, oh yeah, and I was by myself because my husband was still in Haiti, and it was a transition period that I thought was going to be seamless. I thought there were going to be some challenges, but I had been living here before. I knew how to get things done. But even though I worked for myself, there was no way that I could give anything to my clients until I felt settled, right? And that took me 2 months. So you took a year, and I took 2 months of being a stay-at-home mom. And like you, I did not enjoy it, right? I needed to get back to something else. We love our kids, but we need something for ourselves. And I think a lot of stay-at-home moms, they do a lot of activities and they do a lot, right? Apart from taking care of their kids. And that's wonderful, but it's also not for everyone. Right?
Exactly.
So
and that's what I figured out. Like, it's not for me. Yes. I am the type of person, and I think a lot of the soul searching that I had done, and a lot of soul searching that we all do as women and mothers, is that we want to find out, once the children come, what is it that makes me happy? What makes me feel fulfilled? What makes me feel satisfied? Because I need to fill my cup so that I'm happy, I feel the joy, and I can share that with my kids. And my kids see that mama's doing fine, everything's going to be fine. And I was lucky that I found that for myself because not everybody does. And it was a
Exactly.
long process. It took me decades to get here.
I mean, it's
Decades.
similar. That's very similar to me, and I think that you and I, and this may not be everybody's circumstance, but I think that we were very fortunate to
Oh yeah.
have partners in our lives that were supportive of this kind of break and saying, you know what, like I feel like there's something more than I need to be doing, and I need time to find it, right?
Yeah.
And I remember seeing, and I can't remember, I think maybe it was on Oprah, but years ago, and she had a speaker there who was saying, be careful how you come home from work, right? Because the way that you come home from work, if you look stressed, if you're annoyed, if you're losing patience, this is what your children are going to associate with work, right? And I remember I had a job, I won't say where, but I had a job that was so toxic one time. I was there for 9 months. And my mother was living with us at the time. And she told me, you have to leave this job because you're not doing what you need to do for yourself and you're not showing up for your family, right? Because when you show up, you're so stressed. Like I was a ball of stress all the time. I ended up quitting the job after 9 months, right? Because it was just not the environment for me anymore. So I love that, Zania. And so what do
Yes.
you think for you changed in your life, right? Now that you have you have two beautiful boys, you work from home, I'm assuming, right? And I want you to tell the story about
Yeah.
your studio, how you built it, because I remember you had shared it on Instagram one time that your studio, I don't know if it's still the case, but was in your closet. That's where you had put all the soundproof. I loved
Yep.
it.
Yep.
I loved it,
Yeah.
right? And for me too,
Yeah.
when I started doing coaching, I was doing it from my bedroom, right? I had my desk in my room, and so you make it work if it's something that you love. But what do you think changed for you the minute that you had now two children, working from home, being an entrepreneur, having deliverables? What changed for you?
So I'm gonna say preface some
Yeah.
with something first. So I started this career when I was pregnant with my second child because I wanted it so bad and I needed it so bad because I was spiraling. I was like, I'm going crazy. I need something. And I'm the type of person that likes to have manuals. I like to have a to do list. I like to be predictable in a sense. And I was diving into this world of unknown voiceover, like deep into dark, icy waters head
Yes.
first. I'm like, I'm going to do this because I'm going to do this. And it came from designing a job that will fit the needs that I want in my life so that I can carry the lifestyle that I want, which is to be with my kids and have my own thing too. And again,
I just want people to really capture what you just said. You wanted a job that would fit the lifestyle that you wanted. So you designed a career around your priorities and your values and what you wanted at the time. Love it. Keep going.
yeah.
I just
And
wanted to make sure everyone heard that.
yeah, and I think that's very important. Is it achievable? Yes. Is it always going to be achievable? No. Everybody's circumstances are extremely different. Like I had my husband's support, but every bit of money that went into my business was mine
Yeah.
because I knew that this time was going to come in my life at some point. And back in the day when I was 21 years old, working at Viacom, whatever, I made it a very important point to
Yeah.
save for myself. So I saved and saved and thank God the over the head cost when I started this was minimal, because again I
Right,
started in my
similar
closet.
to me. Right, right.
Um,
And that's so
but
people fail to remember that the people that they see, right? You and I that are on Instagram and showing, there before we got to the point of where we are, there was a lot of planning
yeah,
involved, right? And sometimes the planning was unconscious, right?
yeah,
You didn't know that you were going to be a voice actor, but you knew that there was something bigger for you out there. So you started planning ahead of time in the event that you found it. Right. And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
when a lot of my clients, when I talk to them, they see the end goal, right? They see this is what I want. And when you're just looking at the end goal, you are overwhelmed, right? By everything. But when you start really strategizing around it, and for you, and it's important what you're saying, because we're talking a lot to people now that are transitioning careers, right? Because of the pandemic, they're thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. You and I had the epiphany way before COVID, right? But
Yep.
you
Yep.
know, we're talking to an audience that is trying to transition into their careers. So tell us a little bit about that, you know, because you
Yeah.
were, this is a new thing for you. Yeah, you did
Yeah.
singing, but that's a new field. What
Yeah,
was
it completely new field. And I had forgotten I had done voiceover in the past. And I had forgotten that it came natural and that I got great feedback and that the paycheck was great. So I had to do some work. I went to workshops, I went to retreats, women empowerment seminars, like all these things. I could not stay still.
Yeah.
And
You
because I knew
invested
that
in
staying still
yourself.
and doing nothing, I wasn't going to find it.
Yeah.
And what? Sorry, I cut
No,
you off
you
there for a
invested in
second.
yourself. I was saying that you invested in yourself. Time
Exactly.
and financially you invested.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then in one of those retreats, the light bulb just came off because the presenter kept saying, "What's your low-hanging fruit?" And I'm like, "Well, it's my voice." But I've been for decades thinking about my singing voice because it was so in the forefront that I had completely forgotten about voiceover. And I'm like, "Wait a minute,
Yes.
voice over." And then I started digging in, doing my research, just like everybody does research on Google. There was
Yep.
nothing special about my research, and I found
Yep.
podcasts. So I go into I started listening to podcasts. Then I started looking at websites. Then I started looking at blogs. And I'm like, this is it. Like, this is what I'm doing.
Like
I was
you,
lucky.
yeah.
It was,
There
yeah,
was probably something inside you that was like so excited. Like, oh my gosh, I
exactly.
found it. And I want people to know, because a lot of people ask me, but how do I know? You will know.
Yeah.
Once you
You
have
know,
found it, you will know. And it's not even about passion. It's not
no,
about any of that. It's about using your strengths. And you said something important, right? You said you had always thought about your singing voice, right? You knew you had a voice, but it was your singing voice. But it's what we're trying to tell people is that you have these strengths, right? Transferable skills that you can pivot into
yeah.
a new career, right? Nothing that you've done in the past is a waste of time.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything is a platform. And people tell me all the time, Natalie, I haven't done anything. And when I talk to them, I'm like, oh, you've done a lot, right? And this is what's going to help us pivot into this new career. Absolutely love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
that's,
yeah, go
and
ahead.
yeah. And that's it. And it's so important because once you hit the nail in the head with what you like, you're like, all of a sudden, it's all you can think about. You're obsessing about it. You're like, I'm going to do this. No, wait, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try this first. And all of a sudden, I'm the person that's used to using manuals and doing things in order one, two, three. I'm shooting from the hip
Yes.
and I'm doing it doesn't matter. Like, I don't think there's a particular procedure for this, but I'm just going to build my studio, which was in a closet surrounded by my clothes, because of course you need padding. Right now, I
I
look
absolutely
like,
love that story. I
yeah,
love it because I remember seeing it and I was like, she is a genius,
I,
right? Like, how do you, it's not, you're not going to move, right?
no,
You're not going
no,
to go rent a space or rent a
no,
studio to do this. So, how do
yeah,
you, and I think that's what makes a lot of women successful is thinking outside the box, right? That creativity that you have to, whatever it takes, I'm going to make it work, right? So
exactly.
that you had your padding around your clothes doing your voiceover.
Yeah. And that's how it was with a crappy microphone the first several months with but I was doing it. And you hear all these things saying you need this excellent studio and this excellent microphone. I'm like, well, everybody has to start somewhere. And it starts with rates. Like sometimes I don't like undercutting. But at first I'm like, I need to gain the experience because I have zero
Yes. Yes.
voice acting, zero. So I'm going to use the online platforms that there are for auditions to train myself, to get my feet wet, like knee deep. So I went for it, Natalie. I went for it like I've never gone for anything before because I knew that somehow, some way, I was going to get this done. Because
Yeah.
then, and I set small goals, which I think is very important. And everybody works differently, but I set small goals. I want to make X amount of money this year. I want to see if I can get 3 gigs in commercials, maybe 5 gigs in Spanish commercials,
Right.
and maybe this X, whatever your small goals are. I surpassed every single one of them that first
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Then I had my son, and I was like, okay, I know this is going to affect me. So when you ask, how did things change?
Yeah.
Okay, I had to, the biggest change that happens is up here,
Hmm.
is in your brain, because
Yep.
you have to change your mindset. And
Mhm.
we all know that when you have that second kid, the dynamics change in the house.
Ooh, yes.
So I had to shift. I had to shift my mindset and accept that I was once again mother and have my priorities straight. So
Yes.
when my child needs me, my child needs me. Um, and then if I can sneak out and do my job on the side, then I will do that. But I will take it as a case by case basis.
Exactly. It's giving
And
yourself that flexibility that you and I did not necessarily get in corporate America. And I mean, I think for me, one of the biggest, uh, I think the biggest happy part of when I realized I was in the right place was when my first son got sick and I had to ask for time off to take care of him. And when one gets sick, then the other gets sick a couple days later, right? And then so the second one got sick, and then the third one got sick. And so like for a week and a half, I was asking permission, right, to be with my kids to take care of them. And when I left corporate, it was like, oh my gosh, I can just change my schedule today
yes,
because I can be, and the fact of being independent was so important to me, right? Because with 3 kids, you need the flexibility, right? And listen, if you're working in a corporate job that is flexible, amazing, right?
hmm,
Not all environments are like that, but there are. But that was really important to me, for me to be able to call the shots when I
yep,
needed to prioritize one thing over the other, be it work or be it, parenting. I love that.
exactly.
And I love that you
Yeah,
said you set small goals
yeah.
for yourself. But keep
Because
going.
I think it's also it's realistic too. I think when you have a child,
Yeah.
um, but ultimately those goals change throughout time. And and in my third year of doing this, and the balance thing is BS. Like there's no
Ooh,
balance. You
fully.
just have to choose at
Yep.
what you have to, and it's hard. Sometimes it's really, really hard. But I tell my kids, and I've always been very, very real with my kids. And I'm like, do you know that toy that you're playing with? You know why that's in your hands? Because we paid for it with money. That
Exactly.
money comes from mama shutting herself in this box and talking to a microphone for
Yes.
hours, and
I
they get it.
repeat that to my kids all the time. And I think that they've finally come to the point that they understand it, because I remember coming into Zoom calls with clients and always having to apologize. You might hear my kids in the background. They may come up while I'm talking to you, right? And I just felt, and this was pre-pandemic, I just felt at the time, wow, how unprofessional, right? And then pandemic came and everybody was in that boat. Everybody's child was showing up in Zoom, right? And so
It
I started
changed.
I started not apologizing anymore, right? about it because I said, this is the reality. And actually, and as a result of that, you know, when they tell you when you have a when you start a business, especially when you're a coach, you have to choose who's your niche, right? Who do you
Hmm.
want to cater to? And that's
Yeah.
when I had the epiphany of, oh my goodness, I want to work with working mothers, right? Because that's exactly what I am. I relate to that. I've gone through everything that I'm going to teach you about aligning your work with your home life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that
Yeah.
was a really pivotal point for me too, in telling my kids, if I don't work, I don't get paid. And
Yeah.
if I don't get paid, all the things that you want, but say that you need, you're not going to
Right.
have them, right? So you have to give me space to do the job that and that was going to be one of my questions, which you answered before. So that's important. And what do they respond to that when you say that to them?
Most of the times they get it.
Yeah.
Do they still interrupt me? Yes, of course. Like they do
Little
sometimes.
humans, yes.
But I also, like you, I try to space things out in a way where I know that if I'm going to have something like this or a directed session is I'm in my booth in my house and I'm connected through the ears with technology and they're directing me. Like I have the marketing agency in one ear, I have the production house in the other ear, I have the engineer in my third ear, apparently. And then
All at once?
there's like 11 people in my ears. Yeah, 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 yeah. Telling me what to do, and they're all connected. They're in Zoom usually or through Source Connect or whatever. And I'm recording. And it's a commercial. It's a 15-second commercial, but you need sometimes 11 people in your ear. And
Well, how long does it take you generally to record a 15-second commercial?
it honestly depends. It's
It
taken me
varies, right?
15 minutes and it's taken me an
But
hour
you nail
because
it.
it depends on the client.
Yeah.
Depends on the client and how well they know how to direct talent. Maybe they're just it doesn't budget is also a factor.
Right.
Like, can they keep
Right.
me for a full hour? Can they not?
Exactly.
Even though there are
Exactly.
set rates, but it really does vary. And the industry is huge. And I want to talk about it a little bit just in
And
case
that's
someone's
what I wanted.
interested.
Yes. So
Yeah.
if tell us more about, because I think that that's not a career that we know that it exists, right? But it's not a career that people typically think, okay, I'm gonna go to college because I want to become a voiceover actor, right? How Tell us about the industry. What is a voice actor? And what do you need to get in order to what experience would you need in order to be a voice actor?
Okay. I'm a voiceover actor, also known as voice talent, and also known as voice artist. So you can Google search all of those and you'll get something voice artist, voice talent, or voiceover actor.
Hmm.
Um, so what I do is basically I record my voice and my voice goes to content, media content. I personally do commercials for TV and radio in both Spanish and English and promos. That's my biggest gig. I do promos like this Friday on Unimas, este viernes en Unimas a las 7, enamorándonos. Like that I promote
I've
TV.
heard it. I have heard it. I've heard it.
And I do that every day and I do a lot of there's also corporate content like
Mm.
trainings for companies, e-learning, there's audiobooks, there's also animation and dubbing, there's
Oh my God,
also
it's huge.
my gosh, you guys, there's so many things. There's podcasts, intros and outros. There is content that you pre-record for schools. there's there are so many areas where
And
voice
you do it
is
all,
needed.
right, Zania? You do it all.
I haven't tried it all. There are so many areas that you could go into, and I haven't tried them all. Not even close. But I've done acting and I've done mostly short form content. I know I'm not the type to do audiobooks or anything like that. You
Right.
slowly but surely find your groove and where
Niche.
you fit
Yeah.
best. Yeah, your niche. And for me, it's short form content
Mhm.
and I'm getting into animation and a lot of dubbing now. which I love. And now here's the thing. As far as training goes or education, everybody, if you get into the LA people and the New York people that do this often, it's a lot of people will tell you, you need X amount of hours of training and acting in order to do this. I've gotten, I think I took 8 classes at the Miracle Theater in the Miracle Mile for acting in person,
Amazing.
theater acting, and that's it. Like, I haven't
That's it.
done anything else. And I'm not saying that I'm better or that this is just every
But you're
single person
successful.
is
Yeah.
different.
Right. And that's the
Everybody,
thing. I think people feel like sometimes there's a roadmap, right?
yeah,
It's a roadmap that, okay, if I, like you, what you were saying, like you love to have a manual, right? But there's so many different ways of getting into a career without having the formal education. I mean, how many people do you know studied engineering but are now doing, I don't know, finance, right? Or
exactly.
I mean, you study something in school, and the thing is that you go into your undergraduate program very young, thinking you know that what you want to do, but sometimes you actually don't, right? It's through life experiences that you
Yeah,
figure out where it is. So for some of us, it takes a
right.
shorter time. Then I think for you and I, it took a longer time to find that one sweet spot in our careers. But it's not, there's not one um trajectory that you follow that is going to land you in those roles. Everybody's experience is the same. I'm sure there's people that
Right.
they met someone and the person said, you have a voice that would sound great on the radio, right? And then they got the job, never
Hmm.
thinking they would do it, right? But
Yeah,
it's also about
yeah,
being open to these different types of opportunities that are presented to you. Because I
yeah,
think what you said
absolutely.
before about you wanted to succeed in singing, right? And so that was very um it was a sad time in your life when it was like, okay, this is probably not going to work out. What do I do? What do I do with this, right? It's still a talent of mine. So I absolutely love that there's not, even if it doesn't work out in one area, doesn't mean that it can't work out in a different one, right? So I
Right.
think that's really motivating, I think, for a lot of our audience right now.
Yeah, no, and look, it takes time. Not this
Yeah.
is not just this didn't happen overnight for me. It took a really long time. And oh my God, I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say,
You were talking about the, I guess the formal education aspect of
oh,
being a
right.
voice actor,
Oh,
voice
so
talent.
I remember. So with singing, I do have to take into account that I took 13 years of professional technical voice training. So I know how to breathe. I know how to pause. I know how to put certain inflections in certain areas, how to pronounce, how to enunciate, how to make certain sounds that sound nasal, that sound throaty, that sound in the. This doesn't make sense to a lot of people right now that are
It makes
talking,
sense to
that are
me.
listening,
It makes sense to
but
me, but I love that there's so much that goes into it, right? It's
it
not as
does.
easy as what you're seeing on the TV.
No, I'm not just reading a paper, like a piece of paper. Like there's technicalities and strategies that goes into it, and everything that you hear on a TV commercial has been planned and pre-planned and erased and put together in a way where what you're hearing is the company's goal, the company's branding, the company's vision, and I'm just the voice that carries, and
Right.
it's pretty important because you're carrying more than anything an emotion. You want people to feel a certain way. And if I'm not feeling like that and I'm the voice talent, then you're not going to feel that either. Um,
Yes.
so so yeah, and I'm very glad that I've gotten all the experience I've gotten with the singing and corporate America and then working for a small business, because you also have to keep in mind that if you're going to get hired for your job, it's not necessarily because of one factor. It might be a
Right.
combination of factors. Let's say, for example, you're a voice actor. I'm a voice actor. I may not have the voice for your job, but you need it to be turned around quickly and you want it to be handed in on time. And guess what? I'm going to guarantee that. And
Right.
the business ethics that goes into that, the clarity and transparency that you have as a business owner is very important. What other voice talents say about you, what you portray on social media, every single piece
Oh,
that is who you are and what you do is translated into your business. It's there. And so you have to be very, very careful with what you put out there into the world. Doesn't matter who or how much confidence or secure you feel. You just have to be true to your word and understand that rejection, because I get rejected daily because I send auditions out daily.
Yep.
It's not that I have thick skin or I don't have thick skin. No, it's that I understand the process. I understand that the
You
other
understand
end.
the business that you're in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
And
I don't take anything personal because it's
I
not about me.
yeah, I use you're dropping so many gems here today, Zania. Like because one of the other things that I discuss with my clients all the time is their branding, right? And your branding, it is what you're showing in social media, right? How careful you are about how you depict yourself, right, on social media. But it's also about the impression that you leave on the people that you've already worked with, right? And that leads me to my question for you. How much of you do a lot of auditions, but how much of your job is based on getting referred to clients?
At this point in my career, I'm on year 5. It's word of mouth.
Yeah.
Like that's how I've gotten a ton of work.
Yeah.
And I've been very, very lucky. And I've had to eliminate the online platforms to get work through online platforms. And it's solely word of mouth and my agent. I only have one agent. I don't have multiple agents.
There's people that have multiple agents. I'm learning something
Oh
new.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. People have multiple agents, especially in this industry for territories, because there's the whole
Oh,
thing. Like if you're in New York or LA, you need to be a union actor, like SAG-AFTRA
yeah,
actor,
yeah.
which
Mm-hmm.
I do belong to as well. I'm a union actor, but because I
Nice.
live in Florida, I have the ability to do non-union work as well.
Got it. That's
Um,
wonderful. You see, that's
yeah,
something new that I
yeah.
didn't know about. And I
And these
love that. Yeah, go ahead.
And sorry, and these are all things that I have to really emphasize the fact that I didn't know when I started. Like as
Right.
I got into this and I started reading the podcast, listening to the podcast and reading more about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I messed this up. I have to fix this because I don't want to like offend anybody and I don't want to step over anybody's
Right.
toes. I'm like, let me get unionized. Like I'm
Yes.
so sorry. And you just have to be, and things will happen little by little. It's
Yeah.
impossible to be perfect and it's impossible to know everything before you
Yes.
launch, because guess what? If you try to get everything perfect before you launch, before you're
You're
quote
never gonna
unquote
launch.
ready, you're not going to do it.
No,
You're not going to do it.
no. Don't wait. And it's so funny because I mean, even doing this series, I was nervous as heck, right? Thinking it has to be perfect. We can't make mistakes. And then I thought to myself, if I wait, I'm never going to do it, right? And even though I'm nervous about it, I'm still going to do it, right?
Yeah.
And then based on feedback and based on how it goes and based on, how many more women we can get on this platform, it'll get better, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to start somewhere, right? So Zania, what I get we're closing out the live. What would you like to say to those working moms about aligning their work in their home life? What are your last words for them?
I think that part of the hardest thing in all of this, and I know it has been for me, and I guess I would assume that it would be for moms, is to do the soul searching. Like, who am I and what do I want? because we find ourselves in this crazy world of being a mom and motherhood that is just like, okay, I need to center. I need to close my eyes and in this chaos, try to figure out what it is that I want. And I started that process with asking myself, what gives me peace? What would give me joy? And that's where I started designing my career. It didn't exist at that time. It was going to be, but I was like, okay, this is my goal. I did a vision board. And I said,
Yes.
this is my goal. And that vision board I made like 4 years before or 5 years before I had my first child.
Wow.
And Alfie's gonna turn 7 this year. So I did that vision. I'm like, I'm gonna do this. Like somehow it's gonna get there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and trial and error. Trial and error is fine. It's
Yeah.
perfect way to start because you'll figure out what it is that you
You
don't want
think
to do. And we
exactly.
have to do the work to find what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. There's this very cool quote from Elizabeth Gilbert. It's not a quote, she wrote it in one of her books. I believe it was Big Magic. And it's about what career are you willing to go to where you're willing to eat, and I'm not going to say the term she used, where you're willing to eat the poop sandwich. And what she means by that is, okay, I love, I feel like I love voice acting.
Yes.
Am I willing to take the crap that comes with it?
Yes.
And if I can deal with it, then this is it. This is good. And
And
a
that's the
lot of
thing.
that has also,
People, yeah, people fail to real. They're doing construction work next door now. I don't know if you can hear it. Um, Yep, just right when I'm doing a live. But one of the things that people believe is that once they find that right career for them, that every day is going to be a walk in the park, right? It Listen, guys, there's going to be moments that you absolutely are just not feeling it, right? That you don't want to do it. Like I'm an entrepreneur, and similar to you, there are days where we have to invoice, we have to do our financials. That's not what we went into business to do, but I could
right.
spend an entire day doing that, right? That's not the fun part. But there's going to be moments that you're going to love what you're doing, and days that you don't feel it. But
Mm-hmm.
as long as you know that you're on the right track, you're going to keep getting up through the
Yep.
good and the bad to continue doing what you're doing. So,
Yep.
Zania, I'm sure that by now, because you've said so many amazing things, people are going to want to stay in touch with you or even hire you, right? How can they get in touch with you?
Okay, so you can find, I only have Instagram. I don't have Twitter. I don't use Facebook. I don't, clearly not TikTok. I don't think that's for me. But you can reach out to me, like seriously. You can seriously reach out to me, DM me through Instagram. It's at Zania with a Z Vox. ZANIAVOX. Zania Vox. Or you can also, I'm dead serious, you can reach out to me via email, zaniasala@gmail.com. Like,
Beautiful.
happy to help in any way that
Listen,
I
I
can.
think that I could not have picked a better guest to be with me today to do this
Thank you.
first episode. I'm so excited at, what this project is going to look like if we have more women like you willing to share some of the intimate trials and failures and successes that we've had. I think the more women do that, the more we're going to see working moms taking risks, right? And thinking about what you said, what do I want? What do I
Yeah.
want? Because that's what's going to allow you to be a better mom, to be a better partner, to be a
Mm-hmm.
better working woman, is if you are clear about
Yep.
what you want. So thank you
Yep.
so much, Zania. And I'm sure that everybody will be in touch with you and follow you and see
Oh.
some of the funniest content I've seen on Instagram yet on your
Hey,
Instagram.
it's truth. Mom truth, truth bombs, who knows? But thank you so much for having me, Natalie. And I'm really excited about this initiative that you're taking. It
Thank you.
really is cool. And I hope it helps.
Yes, me too. Thank you, everybody. We're so happy that you were with us live. Follow me at Uplift Your Career on Instagram, and you can also connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can go ahead and follow me or connect with me. I'd already said LinkedIn, but you can also go on my website, which is upliftyourcareer.com. But don't forget to follow, DM, or email Zania, and it's at Zania Vox, Vox, on
Yes.
Instagram. Bye, everybody.